Thank you for joining us. We're here with Judy Reeves, author of 4 writing books, one of which is A Writer's Book of Days, which is just republished and is celebrating its 10th anniversary. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And it was named one of the hottest writing books by Writer's Digest, which is very exciting, but we didn't need them to tell us that.
Well, we liked it though.
Sure, we'll take it.
Yeah.
So let's talk about you as a writer, and tell me, I mean, I feel like you've accomplished so much. What are struggles that you have every day, or not every day, but in general with your writing practice?
Confidence.
I understand that.
And so, because of that, I don't know if I can do this, I don't know if I'm any good, I don't know if this is really worth anything. That makes it kind of difficult to get to the page every day. Mm-hmm. You know, that's a struggle, I think. I don't know, maybe not everybody has that struggle. I talk in my book like I don't have that struggle, but the truth is...
Yeah, I would never, having only really known you as taking your class and reading your books, I would have never known that that's something.
There are times, you know, when I'm at a place in the writing that's really hard, that's really difficult, writing a particular scene that causes a lot of pain. You know, it's like, I don't know if I want to do this. I don't know if I can do this. So I would say, you know, and I talked about what I see in some of my students and some of the people who participate, about confidence being one of the difficulties I see for them. I have that. I mean, what is scarier than this? Like a blank page. And you know the very first word you put down there is the wrong word. You know, you've already ruined the idea, and you've already ruined the paper.
How do you combat it then? So how do you give yourself that confidence?
Yeah, so you light the candle, you get the coffee, you read the poem, and you start writing every day. Yeah.
Just
do it. Yeah, I mean, you just... And I have to say that I'm a great believer in writing community. I have almost all my really close friends are writers also. And so, you know, having friends and, you know, yourself, being in a group, having a place to show up with pages. And I'm a good girl, you know. If I'm supposed to be there with pages, I'll be there with pages.
Deadlines always help.
Deadlines help. Deadlines help. Yeah. But I would really say the community has made such a difference for me.
I know you said you had the idea for the calendar, but how did you get your first book published? How were you in talks with a publisher already without having a full book together?
Well, you know, for nonfiction books, generally you sell them on a proposal rather than the full manuscript. At least that was the counsel that I got. Why write the whole book when you don't even know if it's going to sell, unless you have a burning desire to write. And usually nonfiction books are not such a burning desire, you know. You want to sell them.
Right.
So I spent a lot of time writing a book proposal, and I gave this proposal to several people to look at to get feedback on it. And a friend of mine, John Fox, whose book is Finding What You Didn't Lose, he's a poet, and he suggested a New World Library. So I had sent the book out to 4 publishers and 1 agent, and New World called. That was pretty amazing.
That's awesome.
That's pretty short list. It kind of spoiled me a little bit.
I think that would spoil most people.
Yeah.
Well, it's a great book, so.
Thanks. You know, I was running a nonprofit organization called the Writing Center in San Diego, and as happens with a lot of nonprofit organizations, we ran out of money, had to close the doors. The day that I had loaded up the pickup truck 4 times with furniture and books to take from that place to put in a storage unit, I got home at 11 o'clock that night, and there was a message on my voicemail that said, "This is, you know, Gina Mizraglu from New World Library. We wonder if you still have that book available." So it was, I jumped up and down. That was really something to go from that to that in one day.
So what is your writing practice? When do you write? How do you write? Do you journal? What is a day writing as Judy Reeves?
Judy Reeves day. A good day is when I actually write. I'm a light a candle, cup of coffee, read a poem, start writing kind of woman. And so I do, and I start with my journaling. I usually do that first, and then we'll move into, if I'm not in the middle of a project, then I'll move into writing practice, and just write on any old prompt or anything that comes to me. But I've been writing a novel, and I'm back into the novel again on third draft. And so now I use my practice time for writing the novel. I use, instead of doing the writing practice.
Oh, okay.
Like just writing from a prompt like that, I'm writing on the novel now. And a couple of times a week I lead writing practice groups, and so then I will write from the prompt with everybody else.
So I know you have your ritual that we talked about for starting to write in the mornings, but do you have a specific place that you write? Do you have a special pen? Do you find that that people should have these kind of lucky charms?
And it is something about that. Judy Reeves' opinion about these things, because I thought a lot about these things. Why do we need a special pen, and a certain paper? I use a Pilot Precision V7 blue, and that's not the very fine point, but it's a fine point, and it's a blue ink, and I use Mead notebooks, college ruled, spiral bound, 3-hole punch that you can get for a 6-pack when school starts, and I load up on them every year. So those are my tools that I use for my writing practice. Now, I don't have to, I'm comfortable with these things. It's like you have favorite clothes that you like to wear, you're comfortable. If I'm comfortable with my tools that I'm using, I'm more confident in the writing. I don't have to think about these things. If I have a pen that skips, if I have a pen that feels clumsy in my hand, then I get
focused
obsessed.
on that.
Yeah, on that. And I did a lot of research on this and found out how many writers do these kinds of things.
Really?
Yeah, and they have certain pens, they order certain notebooks, when they start a new novel, they always start with a certain kind of paper, all of these kinds of things. We are quirky people, we writers are, but it's part of the ritual too, I think. And when we do ritual, it is we want to enter into, crossing the threshold into another place. We're leaving behind our day in and day out. We're not going to think about making the bed. We're not going to think about the dishes that need to be done. God knows we're not going to think about email that needs to be answered, right?
I always think about
I know. But instead, we have our cup of coffee, we have our candle, we have our poems, we have our notebook, we have our pen. And so when we have all those things, it's like, I'm ready and I can do this now. It's like when you get on the massage table and your body gets ready to accept the massage. I think this is what happens when we go to our comfortable place with our tools that we're used to. It's that we're sending the signal to that part of ourselves that will open.
I like that analogy. I'm going to tell myself we're getting ready for a massage every morning.
Yeah. So, and I do have a place that I have created for myself for my writing practice, but I also am a cafe writer. I also, as I mentioned, 17 times, I like to write in community, so I do that a lot. I think it's good for us to shake those habits up sometimes and make ourselves a little uncomfortable, because it gives it a different little tension, and that's good. That can be good for the writing too. Yeah.
When you write for your novels, like a bigger creative piece, do you write by hand for first drafts, or are you on the computer for that?
I always write my fiction first draft by hand.
Wow.
And then I put it in. I'll tell you why. It's because I edit so much when I write on the computer. So I do all my nonfiction writing, I write on the computer. So now I'm on the third draft of my novel, and what I decided to do is that I'm re-entering everything into the computer instead of just like opening up where I know I have to open up a part, and then I would generally go in and write that by hand and then put it into that. Instead, I'm putting all of it new into this. Is I don't know why I'm doing it this way, but it felt like the right thing to do. Maybe because I was away from the novel for a while while I did the other book, and it just felt like I need to really get deep into the story again. I can't just go in and start messing around with it and putting stuff in.
So are you looking at a draft of it before and retyping it?
And retyping it, and and then I see places where it doesn't feel right, and then I get out the notebook and start writing by hand. So I'm like ambidextrous.
Thank you so much for taking the time to answer all these questions, and so I really appreciate it.
Good.
Thank you.